Hey there, David Teal back in the Popwood shop with another shop tip. Today is one on the thickness planer. Actually, what we're going to talk about is a thickness gauge that you can make at home. And you might question why it's necessary, but I think you'll see that it's a benefit. So let's take a look at it. Now, when you're working on the planer, you're always working to check the thickness. And no, these are not the size of the pieces that I run through the planer. These are just examples of some different thicknesses. So when you're checking, you're maybe running down to 3/4 or 1.5 inches or 1/2 inch, and you end up checking with your tape measure. You may use the tape, the hook on the end, or you may check from here. But what happens is when I'm checking, I'm looking at this and it's like, okay, there's a lot of lines here. Yeah, that's a little bit more than 3/4 inch. And that is taking a little more time than I honestly want. Let's see, I think, yeah, that's, I don't know, 1 5/8 maybe, something like that. I want something a little faster. So we came up with this quickie thickness gauge that's made out of, honestly, any kind of thin piece of plywood you've got laying around. It's 4 inches by 8 inches, and put it on the planer, hang it on the planer. As a matter of fact, if you wanted to glue some magnets to the back of it, you can throw it against the planer and it'll stay there. The idea is, once you've got your piece run, stick it in here and check. Oh, look, I'm a little more than 3/4 inch, and there's not a bunch of little lines that I have to check it with. Check this one. Oh, it's too big. That's because I'm starting at 1.5 inches. Now, the beauty of this is you can make this gauge to whatever size you want by widening this out, and you can just mark it as you want by measuring across it. So let's take a look at how we made this real quick. I have my 4 inch by 8 inch piece of wood here, and I arbitrarily set my saw fence for 1.5 inches. You can decide where that goes, but I wouldn't get too thin or you get a little bit of flex. I have it set for 1.5 inches, and I've actually made a mark here at 6 inches, and that's where I want to stop, and then I'll stop the saw. And the next step is to decide how wide you want your mouth to be on the piece. You may only run 3/4 inch pieces, which is fine, then make a skinny mouth, but honestly, most of us are running pieces up to 2 inches. So let's say we want to make our mouth 1 3/4. So we measure from the flat, and 1 3/4 is our mark there. Now just take a straight edge, place it against this, and run it to the open thickness of the kerf, there. And make a line. Now we'll go to the bandsaw and cut along this. I'm going to cut to the inside of this line so that it ends up right where that waist piece is, where the kerf opens. So we'll cut to the inside of the waist. Straight is good, but the nice thing is that it's not really critical because we're going to measure across here to determine our sizes. So we're going to bring a steel rule in here, and you're going to pretty much put the size you want. You may want 1.5 inches. That's a good one, so we'll mark it there. Give it a mark. 1.25 inches maybe? Sure, why not? There's 1.25 inches. Again, you can tap right up against it so you know where you are. There's 1.25 inches. Put a line. Inch. How about inch? You walk on down, you determine what sizes you want to use. 3/4 inch is a pretty safe bet, and we won't have the obstruction of all the little different sizes along the way. No little tick marks to worry about. Find that 1/2 inch there. There we go. Now, you want to mark these so that you'll be able to remember them very carefully. And again, we started at 1.5 inches. So, 1.5 inches. 1.25 inches, 1 inch, don't mark it wrong, 1 inch it is, 1 inch, 3/4, and 1/2 inch. So the next time you're at your thickness planer, leave the tape measure behind and use your thickness gauge to determine that you're not at 1.25 inches yet. That's our trick for today. Thanks for watching.